Gomes, today European Parliament is going to discuss the situation of slave markets in Libya and huge problems with migration from this country. You especially, you have been many times in Libya. Do you think it's realistic to find a solution in task force when country is divided?
The task force, if this means indeed a commitment of the international community via the UN, but with clear European involvement, yes, it's absolutely necessary, but it should be on the right premises. And the right premises is not to pretend that there is such thing as a Libyan Coast Guard. There is none. If it exists, it's only nominal. Indeed, what you have on the ground is militia. European countries have been, and the European Union has been actually putting forward that fabrication, even paying militia, pretending it's a Libyan Coast Guard. It is not. We should understand that there is no real governance in Libya. There are some people who attempt for governance in Libya, but others who disrupt. So the international community has to take the responsibility and endeavor jointly. Yes, it would include the European Union and the African Union, but it must be much broader than just thinking that we can manage migration alone. It has to do with governance in Libya. It has to do with the basic questions of security sector reform, of demobilization of the militia, of governance in Libya. It's a joint endeavor, but it's a difficult one. It has to be done with Libyan parties, definitely, but it has to be assumed as a very serious endeavor for our joint security, namely for the European security. And we cannot continue with this pretense that a Libyan Coast Guard can manage the problem. No. And yes, we have very serious problems going on now in Libya with militia having transformed themselves and associated with human trafficking networks, making huge money about that slave trade, thinking that you can manage detention camps in Libya to prevent people from coming to Europe simply is not going to work and is unconscionable from the legal and the moral point of view.
Just one short question. Now there is one more pretendant to power, the son of Gaddafi. So some tribes are even trying to promote and lobby him. Libya is so fractured. So what international community can do to unite the country, to have to return to stability it had once?
Well, there was a time when Prime Minister Ali Zidane came to the EU in 2012 and then in 2013 asking for the basic support of the European Union, even of NATO, to actually help it go about the security sector reform, the structuring of a real state, which simply was not happening in Libya after Gaddafi. The situation now reflects this failure, collective failure of the international community, but I would say of the European Union in particular, because indeed our member states were playing games there, rivaling with each other, as we still see it is happening. I mean, Italy is basically more than the migrants is concerned with keeping the oil flowing. So this requires a real security endeavor by the international community. It should be with the backing of the Security Council of the General Assembly. Europe has to be very much implicated as the UN, as the African Union, but it's not just about managing migration. It's about indeed ensuring that there is governance in Libya, and at the moment with a mass murderer like Mr. Haftar, which is backed by Egypt and by Saudi Arabia, being one of the disruptive forces for governance in Libya, with other tribal groups, including those linked with former dictator Gaddafi, and with a very weak Sarraj government, which is the only one recognized. I mean, Libya has no governance. We have to assume that. We have to stop the pretense that there is governance in Libya. We need to work with all these Libyans, and I know there are many Libyans who are not only suffering a lot, but indeed very willing to work with the international community. The international community must implicate itself much more in Libya and the EU, and that might mean as well military boots on the ground, so that this situation does not develop in an even worse way, which is actually the vast territory of Libya becoming a sanctuary for terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda, such as ISIS, which is happening.